We are back with another monthly wrap-up of some of the weird, bizarre, and even scary news to come out of Japan over the last month. So, what happened over the last month or so? Let's take a look. Number 1. Let's kick this month off with a bit of a first for Japan. On June 26th, the Fukushima police station in Osaka filed charges against a Chinese national in her 30s on suspicion of violating the road traffic law. And how exactly did she break the law? Well, she was caught riding an electric suitcase. Now, I have an uncle back in Australia who has been known to ride around on a motorised esky, which I guess is called a cooler or icebox or whatever word you have for it where you live, but he does so in the safety of his own backyard. The problem with this motorised suitcase was that it can reach speeds of 13 kilometers per hour, which is slower than a bicycle, but under the law, is still considered to be a motorised vehicle. Because the woman didn't have a helmet or a license to ride her suitcase on the sidewalk where she was found, she was arrested, a first for Japan. Naturally, the woman, who lives and studies in Japan, has denied the charges of hooning around on her electric suitcase and proclaimed she had no idea she needed a license to ride it. Indeed. Number 2. If someone tells you not to do something, well, human instinct just makes you want to do it even more, right? On June 16th, some high school students in Tokyo decided to give in and partake of some forbidden potato chips. Because who doesn't love some forbidden potato chips? These particular chips are marketed as 18 plus and for adults only, which seems like a really good way to get those younger than that wanting to try some. But at any rate, they're rated this way because of how spicy they are. This isn't your normal spice level, but more akin to those single chip challenges that often leave people crying in pain. And that's exactly what happened here. It was reported that 14 students ended up being taken to the hospital after trying the delicious forbidden chips, with various stomach and mouth pains from the incredible spiciness. The website for the chips warns that they're not for people under 18, those with high blood pressure, or weak stomachs. And as the high school students discovered, those warnings weren't just for show. Of course, the students were fine in the end, but it's probably safe to say they'll think twice about giving in to forbidden foods in the future now. Number 3. A little story from an electrician on Twitter went viral this month, racking up over 9 million views as of making this video. It's hot, so let me tell you a scary story. It began. Summer is the time to chill your pants off, after all. I got a call on my day off. Our wall socket is burnt. Can you do something about it? They said. So I went over. It was a single house and the socket in the bathroom was burnt. I can change it for 2,200 yen, I said. What a rip-off, they replied and chased me out of the house. 1 month later, the house completely burnt down. Indeed, a terrifying story. Losing your entire house because the equivalent of roughly $20 was considered too much to fix a burnt electrical outlet. Comments remarked on how indeed the story was terrifying, how 2,200 yen is actually terribly cheap to replace a burnt wall socket, and how this story serves as a good reminder. Sometimes you really do need to spend a little now to save more later. But also, we should probably question why they continued using the burnt socket in the first place, huh? Number 4. How far would you go to attract the attention of someone you're interested in? Would you, say, put liquid glue in someone's hair and tell them that a bird pooped on them as you tried to wipe it off? Because that's exactly what a 25-year-old man in Nagoya did this month, and needless to say, he was arrested for it. It was reported that the man, an office worker, approached a woman in her 30s this May and asked her for directions. But as he did, he touched her hair with liquid glue on his hands and then pointed it out to her, saying that a bird had pooped on her. Because that's exactly the way to a woman's heart, obviously. It's unknown how exactly he got arrested, but the man admitted to police that he did it as an opportunity to pick up women, and he had done it roughly 10 times in the last few months. So perhaps one of the women caught on to his weird behavior and reported him. But either way, there are so many questions regarding this one. So many questions. Number 5. Japan's population may be declining, but there is still quite a few people living on a rather small amount of land. And let's not forget that 80% of that land is made up of mountains, many unsuitable for long-term habitation. Well, a tweet this month went viral for pointing out something even more interesting. Is it true that half of Japan's population lives in this red line? Dubbed the Pacific Belt, this region of Japan that starts in Ibaraki Prefecture and runs straight down to Fukuoka does indeed house half of Japan's population. As someone from Australia, where most people live along the coasts and the great majority of the country is empty, this isn't too surprising to see, but it's still fascinating to see a visual of it. Again, most of Japan is made up of mountainous areas that are near impossible for people to live on. And interestingly, 70% of people who answered a poll by the original poster, whether they lived inside or outside of the red area, answered that they lived inside it. Perhaps unsurprising, considering it contains most of Japan's biggest cities, but interesting nevertheless. Number 6. On July 18th, an incredibly important verdict was reached in a terribly important case in Osaka. And what was the case? Well, a man from Kyoto was suing a pizza store for 100,000 yen in compensation for damages caused by the late delivery of a pizza for a Christmas party. A pizza that was delivered 52 minutes late. According to the man, he and his friends ordered all their food for the Christmas party under the assumption that the pizza would arrive on time, of course. However, the pizza was delivered 52 minutes late, and according to the man, this caused him and his friends great distress. After all, their website emphasizes that pizzas are delivered on time, so they should understand the impact a late delivery has. 30 minutes might be considered fine by social standards, but nearly an hour late was far too much for the man, and so he decided to sue them for 100,000 yen in damages. Naturally, the judge rejected the man's case, noting that there is simply no way he could have suffered psychological damages merely from a pizza being delivered late. Pizza that he was already refunded for as well. Meaning, all that late pizza he got, he already ate for free anyway. Sure, you might be serious about pizza, but are you ready to go all the way to the High Court of Osaka to sue about it? Because clearly this guy was, although in the end, all he got out of it was wasting even more of everyone's time. Number 7. A review for bear repellent spray went viral this month after a Twitter user shared they had bought some of the product and he found a rather interesting review for it. Very effective, even on humans. I wanted to test the power of the spray, so I stood 2 to 3 meters from the wall and sprayed it for just 0.2 to 0.3 seconds. I regretted that to death. I couldn't stop coughing and sniffing, so I showered with my clothes on to wash all of it off my body. But my symptoms remained for the next hour, and while I was cleaning it off the wall, I was still hit by it and continued with my runny nose and cough. I thought that no living creature would be fine being sprayed directly by this for several seconds, let alone a bear. You can safely tour Hokkaido with this. What else can you say but, indeed. If you're wondering which spray it was the GrizzGuard Bear Spray, which is apparently recommended by the US Forest Guard as well. I mean, with all of these glowing reviews, how can you go wrong, huh? Just don't test it on yourself, of course. Number 8. The world is getting hotter, And this month, it was announced back in my old hometown of Matsue that the Shimane Prefectural Police have made a heat countermeasure rule that came into effect on June 26th. And what does this rule mean exactly? Well, police officers in the prefecture can now wear sunglasses and buy drinks while on the job. Yep, you heard that right. While wearing sunglasses technically wasn't against the rules beforehand, the image of sunglasses in Japan is slightly different to much of the Western world, and it's generally associated with being intimidating and unapproachable, the opposite of how the police would like to come across. It was also not illegal for officers to buy drinks while on duty, but there was a hidden pressure not to, as it seemed unprofessional. Now, with an actual rule written in stone, officers can feel at ease with both as the heat continues to rise. And let me just say, as an Australian, Matsue had some of the hottest summers I've ever experienced in my life. Take care out there, everyone. Number 9. Sad news for us old folks this month as NTT Japan announced on July 11th that they'll no longer be distributing the yellow town pages anymore. The town pages started in 1983, but they were a follow-on from a directory that had been around since 1890, meaning quite the legacy is about to end. Naturally, the town pages are no longer profitable, and with smartphones being so popular nowadays, NTT announced that profits have dropped as very few people use the guide anymore. In 2005, the town pages had a circulation of roughly 63 million copies around the country, but by 2011, that dropped to 26 million. And over the years, that number has continued to drop, and now, a roughly 130-year legacy of phone numbers recorded on paper has come to an end. Sad days. Number 10. Finally this month, you can now mount an anime butt on your wall from which you can pull out tissues from the hole. I'd like to thank this month's news for making me say that. The tissue covers, shaped like a ninja backside, come from the franchise Taimanin, which, I'm told, started off as a series of adult visual novels, but over time has branched out into numerous different areas, not all of them adult. Still, a butt on your wall. Yes, they recommend you mount it on the wall. That you can now pull tissues out of. I mean, what more do you need in life? If you'd like to lament the loss of the town pages, well, now you can pull a tissue out of a butthole and wipe those sore eyes. Thanks, Japan. And that's just some of the weird, bizarre, terrifying, and also kind of funny news that came out of Japan last month. But what about you guys? Hear of anything odd or terrifying, weird or funny? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.